Tonight we're diving into something extraordinary. Imagine waking up tomorrow as an American soldier fighting in World War II. By the time we finish, you'll be infinitely grateful for that cozy mattress beneath you. If you're enjoying these stories, don't forget to like or subscribe. I'm always amazed to hear where you're listening from. Drop a comment with your location and local time. It's humbling to know people worldwide are drifting asleep to this. Now, get comfortable. Take a slow, deep breath and let your body melt into whatever surface you're lying on. We're transporting back to January 1945, deep in the frozen forests of eastern France. Congratulations, you've just woken up in eastern France. January 1945, and you're freezing beyond comprehension. Not the kind of chill solved by an extra blanket, but a marrow deep cold that's turned your toes numb, crusted your eyelashes with ice, and seeped into your very bones. Your first realization? You're sleeping on frozen earth. No mattress, no cot, just dirt so solid it might as well be concrete. A single wool blanket, stiff with ice along its edges, barely covers you, its surface dusted with fresh snow that fell during your precious few minutes of sleep. You're wearing the same clothes for nearly 2 weeks now. Wool socks that haven't been dry since Christmas. Army issue boots splitting at the seams. Layers of olive drab fabric reeking of sweat, dirt, and the metallic tang of fear. A steel helmet sits nearby, so cold that touching its bare metal would peel your skin off. The air carries scents of pine, gunpowder, and something else, something sickly sweet and horrific that you've tragically grown accustomed to. Death's perfume. When you sit up, every muscle screams in protest. Your spine's compressed from the frozen ground, your joints stiff from the cold. Around you, men stir in their foxholes. Someone coughs. Someone curses under their breath. Someone prays. Welcome to the Colmar Pocket, one of Germany's last strongholds in France. You, my friend, are a soldier in Company B, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Division of the U.S. Army. Just days ago, your company had over 100 men. Now, barely 40 remain. You've been fighting nonstop since landing in Italy nearly 2 years ago. The good news? You're alive, which is more than many can claim. The bad? The Germans are preparing a massive counterattack, and you're directly in their path. Glance left. See that skinny kid checking his M1 carbine? That's 2nd Lieutenant Audie Murphy. He looks like he should be in high school, 19 years old, maybe 5 feet 5 inches, 110 pounds soaking wet. You'd never guess he's already the most decorated soldier in your company. Distinguished Service Cross, 2 silver stars, 2 bronze stars. The men call him Babyface behind his back, but never to his face. Not after witnessing his heroics at Anzio, where he single-handedly took out a German machine gun nest, or in France when he eliminated 2 snipers and another machine gun crew alone. The kid's either insanely brave or has a death wish. Maybe both. Hey, he nods, his breath visible in the freezing air. Grab coffee if any's left. Gonna be a long day. You crawl from your foxhole, boots crunching snow. The surrounding forest is eerily beautiful. Tall pines bowing under snow-laden branches, morning mist weaving between trunks. In the distance, the German-held village of Holzwehr lurks about a mile across open fields. Your position is precarious. Company B occupies the edge of a U-shaped woods with exposed fields ahead. A narrow road connects the forest to the village. The frozen ground made digging proper foxholes nearly impossible. Most men only manage shallow depressions barely deep enough to shield their bodies. You trudge to the makeshift mess area, just a widened forest clearing where a beleaguered cook struggles to heat coffee over a feeble stove. The brew, when you get it, is lukewarm and tastes like mud, but the caffeine might keep you alive today. Germans are moving. A sergeant growls, his face weathered beyond his years. Scouts spotted activity in the village. Could be nothing. Could be hell. You sip the terrible coffee, feeling it hit your empty stomach. When did you last eat a real meal? The K rations, processed meat, tooth-breaking biscuits, frozen chocolate bars, and cigarettes are survival, not sustenance. As dawn breaks, casting long shadows through the trees, distant artillery rumbles like constant background noise. Your hands tremble, from cold or fear, you can't tell anymore. Lieutenant Murphy moves among the men, checking positions with quiet encouragement. Despite his youth and size, he radiates calm confidence, maybe from surviving impossible odds. His eyes tell stories his face hasn't aged into yet. Keep your head down today, he warns you. Something feels off. Back at your foxhole, you inspect your gear. Your M1 Garand is your lifeline. 8 rounds per clip, the metal biting through your gloves. Several spare clips fill your ammo pouches. A half-frozen canteen, a first aid kit, a bayonet, a few grenades. Not much between you and oblivion. Around 2 p.m., everything changes. First comes the sound, a mechanical rumble distinct from artillery. Growing louder. Tank engines. They're coming, someone shouts. Instantly, weapons cock. From Holzwehr's mist, 6 German Panthers emerge like steel beasts, followed by hundreds of infantry advancing in formation. Jesus Christ, someone whispers. The odds are suicidal. 40 of you against hundreds with tank support. Your company has nothing to stop Panthers except 2 M10 tank destroyers. One positioned on the village road, another 40 yards ahead. Murphy's on the radio calling artillery, voice steady but shoulders tense. This is bad. Catastrophic. German artillery opens fire. The world dissolves into chaos. Shells explode among trees, sending deadly shrapnel everywhere. You press into your shallow foxhole, willing yourself into the earth. Peeking up, you see an M10 take a direct hit. The commander and gunner vaporized in the blast. The surviving crew abandons the burning wreck. The second M10 fires desperately, but its shells bounce harmlessly off the Panther's armor. It tries reversing into the trees for cover, only to slide off-road into a ditch, its gun now useless. Murphy barks orders. Fall back to secondary positions. You know what this means. Your line is collapsing. A stronger defensive position lies deeper in the woods, but someone must cover the retreat. Murphy stays exposed, directing artillery fire onto the advancing Germans. You think he's insane, until you realize he's saving your lives. As you retreat, you glance back and freeze. Murphy's alone now, climbing onto the burning M10. He mans its .50 cal machine gun as German bullets and shells impact all around. The tank could explode any second, yet he cuts down swaths of infantry while calling in strikes. When asked how close the Germans are, he quips, "Hold the phone. I'll let you talk to one." Twice, explosions engulf him. Twice, he emerges still firing. The ground around the M10 becomes a graveyard of German dead. Their attack stalls, then collapses. Only then does Murphy climb down, limping from a leg wound but refusing evacuation. Instead, he leads a counterattack, reclaiming your original position. Later, you'll learn Murphy single-handedly killed or wounded 50 Germans, stopping 6 tanks and 250 infantry. He saved Company B from annihilation. As night falls, you're back in your foxhole. Numb hands, frozen feet, exhausted beyond measure, but alive. Murphy checks on everyone, his hands steady despite everything. Rest up, he tells you. They'll be back tomorrow. You burrow deeper into your foxhole, watching stars pierce the winter sky. You think of home, warm beds, hot meals, safe streets. Finding that one slightly less frozen patch of earth beneath your hip. The cold still seeps in, but your eyelids grow heavy. Distant artillery rumbles. Yet here, now, there's strange peace. You're alive. Your unit held. Tomorrow will come. You yawn, jaw cracking from cold. Tucking your hands against your chest, you surrender to another night in France's frozen forests, where snow falls gently through the pines above. Morning arrives brutally, not with sunlight, but a sergeant kicking your foxhole. Wake up, soldier. Germans don't care if you're tired. Your body feels like shattered glass and lead. Every joint aches. Your back's one solid knot of pain. Your mouth tastes like pennies. The coldest European winter in decades just got worse. Ice coats your helmet's interior from your breath. Your canteen's solid. Even your bootlaces are frozen stiff. Around you, Company B groans through mourning rituals, stretching frozen limbs, cursing frozen gear, lighting cigarettes with numb fingers. Pass the matches, says the new guy in the next foxhole. Jenkins or Johnson. Replacements come and go so fast, names barely matter. He's maybe 18, with baby fat cheeks. Looks more like a paperboy than a soldier. He'll either toughen up fast or die. No middle ground here. Distant artillery rumbles. German 88s. You recognize from their distinctive crump. At least they're shelling somewhere else. Small mercies. Breakfast is more K rations. Powdered eggs, a pale yellow paste when mixed with water, rock-hard biscuits, frozen chocolate, and that go-doffel instant coffee. You eat mechanically, not for taste, but survival. Cold burns calories faster than combat. Lieutenant Murphy makes his rounds. A bandage peeks from his pant leg, but he moves without limping. His face is gone, weathered beyond his years. Any movement from the village? He asks. Nothing yet, sir, you reply. He nods. They took a beating yesterday, but they'll be back. Stay sharp. You watch him move on. Tired like everyone, but radiating quiet competence. Unlike officers who lead from rear echelons, Murphy's in the dirt with you. The morning drags. Hours of boredom punctuated by moments of terror. You clean your M1 meticulously. The 8-round clip beats the old Springfield from your dad's World War I stories. At noon, a Jeep brings mail, more precious than gold. 2 letters, one from Mom, one from Sarah, your girl back in Ohio. You tuck them inside your jacket. Letters are private things. There's also fresh socks. Trench foot has claimed more men than bullets. Your feet are pale and wrinkled, but not black yet. Another mercy. Hey, says the kid, confirmed as Jenkins. Is it true what they say about Lieutenant Murphy? That he took on a whole German company alone yesterday? You nod, stuffing damp socks inside your shirt to dry them with body heat. Saw it myself. Climbed a burning tank destroyer. Manned the .50 cal for an hour. Held off the entire attack. Jenkins whistles. That's Medal of Honor stuff. Maybe, if we live long enough for the brass to hear about it. You don't sugarcoat it. False hope gets men killed here. Post-lunch, more K rations, this time ham. You're assigned to a patrol. 6 men led by Staff Sergeant Barlow, scouting north for German movement. Moving through snow demands hyper-awareness. Every shadow could be a sniper, every rustle an ambush. After 3 exhausting hours finding nothing, you return to find Murphy huddled with officers over a map. Word spreads. Germans are retreating from the Colmar pocket, shifting east against the Russians. Your regiment pushes tomorrow to prevent their orderly withdrawal. That night, you eat dinner rations beside your foxhole, watching sunset paint the snow pink and gold. Jenkins writes a letter home. I tell them I'm fine, that it's not bad, that the food's good. He folds it carefully. What else can I say? The truth would just scare them. You nod. Your own letters are similar lies. No mention of constant terror, bone-deep cold, or watching men vanish in red mists. 1 second there, gone the next. How'd you end up here? Jenkins asks. Volunteered after Pearl Harbor. You say, chewing a K-ration candy bar. Seemed right. He was drafted last August. Didn't even finish high school. A whistle cuts the air. Incoming artillery. You dive on Jenkins as the world explodes. For 20 minutes, hell rains down. Earth shaking, trees shattering, men screaming. When it stops, the silence is deafening. Dirt and pine needles coat everything. Your mouth, your clothes. You okay? You ask Jenkins. He nods, pale. Yeah, I think. Peering over the foxhole, you see the forest transformed. Splintered stumps, craters, the stench of cordite and burning wood. Medic, someone shouts. It's Barlow. Shrapnel juts from his thigh, blood soaking the snow. The medic works swiftly. This is your ticket home, Sarge. Barlow protests, but the medic insists. As they stretcher him away, he grabs your arm. Watch the new kid. You nod, knowing you'll likely never meet again. That's war. Night falls colder. Murphy doubles the watch. 2 men per position, 4-hour shifts. You're midnight, 2:04 a.m. with Jenkins. The temperature plummets. Your breath frosts the air. How do you stand it? Jenkins whispers. The waiting, knowing they're out there watching us. You focus on the next minute. Don't think ahead. I'm scared, he admits. Everyone is. Only liars and crazies aren't. The conversation dies. Cold makes talking painful. Besides, listening saves lives. The night plays tricks. Shadows become enemies. Wind sounds like German commands. Fatigue conjures movement where none exists. Jenkins breaks the silence around 3 a.m. Can't sleep. Feet are frozen. You share a cigarette, cupping the glow. Against regulations, but sanity has its own rules. The harsh tobacco burns, but spreads fleeting warmth. You got someone waiting back home? He asks. Sarah, high school sweetheart. He shakes his head. Never had luck with girls. Too shy. You'll find someone. Women love uniforms. If I get back, he murmurs. You don't offer hollow platitudes. Instead, you ask about his home, a Pennsylvania coal mining town, 3 sisters, high school baseball captain, dreams of teaching. You share your Ohio life, auto plant job, plans to marry Sarah. These exchanges aren't just passing time. They forge bonds, remind you what you're fighting for, not just abstract ideals, but the right to go home and live. Dawn brings snow, heavy, wet flakes reducing visibility. I don't like this, you mutter. Perfect attack weather. As if summoned, German artillery erupts. Shells walk across the village. 20 minutes of systematic destruction. When it stops, wounded cry out, fires crackle. Then movement at the tree lean. A full company advancing under snow cover. Here they come. You fire your M1 carefully. Jenkins does too, hesitant but learning. American machine guns join the fray, but the Germans keep coming, using snowfall as cover. An MG-42 opens up on your position, rounds snapping overhead, chipping the stone wall. We need to move. You drag Jenkins to a new spot behind a fallen tree. Through the snow, you spot a German officer directing the attack. You steady your breath, squeeze the trigger. He drops. Their advance falters, then resumes fiercely. A mortar lands close. Dirt and snow shower you. Your ears ring. Jenkins checks if you're hit. You thumbs up, though blood trickles from your left ear. The battle rages over an hour. Germans reach the village edge before American artillery smashes their ranks. By mid-morning, they retreat, leaving the field littered with dark shapes in the snow. The village is battered, buildings burned, the church steeples partially collapsed. Medics tend the wounded. You bandage Jenkins' minor shrapnel wound, not serious enough for evacuation. Your ears stopped bleeding, but the ringing persists. Murphy appears, uniform torn, someone else's blood smeared on his face. Exhausted but alert. Good work. More Germans are coming from the north. They're not done with us. How long do we hold here, sir? Until relieved or overrun. Preferably the first. The day continues with sniper fire and sporadic shells. You and Jenkins take 2-hour sleep shifts, never fully lowering guard. Snow keeps falling, burying the battle's evidence. You find a cellar beneath a damaged house, warmer underground. Hanging a blanket for privacy, you create a tiny sanctuary. Sharing a K-ration can, using a bayonet as a utensil, Jenkins produces a battered deck of cards. You play gin rummy to pass time. You think we'll push forward tomorrow? He asks, discarding a 3 of clubs. Probably. One village at a time. That's how we win. Seems like forever. Won't be. Germans are running out of men and supplies. They'll break eventually. You don't mention the cost in lives. At full dark, you return to your position. The snow's stopped. Stars blaze fiercely. The cold is brutal, stiffening your fingers on your rifle. After midnight, you hear Jenkins crying softly, muffling it with his sleeve. You pretend not to notice. Better to release it quietly than break when it matters. When he composes himself, you say, "Get some rest. I'll wake you if anything happens." He settles, breathing steadying. You keep watch over him and the starlit landscape, guardian of this fragile moment. Morning brings American reinforcements, fresh troops with clean uniforms and apprehensive faces. Resupply includes ammo, socks, and miraculous Hershey bars. Jenkins pockets his, saving this for a special occasion. You eat yours immediately. Special occasion is now. Orders come. Company B moves out in 1 hour, pushing northeast toward the Rhine. Germans are establishing a new defensive line. You use the hour wisely. Washing socks at a working pump. No trench foot yet. Inspecting your M1. Reloading clips. Murphy briefs the men. We're pushing to Jebsheim. Germans will fight, delaying actions. Stay alert. The advance begins under a cold sun. Marching through snow is exhausting. Each step a battle. Scouts range ahead. The main column moves cautiously. At a crossroads, scouts report a stone farmhouse abandoned. Murphy sends a squad to clear it. You sense danger, confirmed when German guns erupt from the windows. 2 Americans fall immediately. The medic drags one back, the other's gone. The bazooka team blasts the building until white flags appear. 4 young Germans surrender, gaunt, in patched uniforms. One speaks broken English. War is over for us. Better to live. You feel no hate, just weariness. They're soldiers like you. The advance continues. You find a frozen American corpse, James Mitchell from Tennessee. You close his eyes, cover his face, mark the spot for graves registration. War's harsh truth. The dead wait while the living fight. By nightfall, you've covered 6 miles. The company digs in. No fires allowed. Dinner is cold K rations. The cold intensifies, well below zero. Your canteen freezes solid. Breath forms ice crystals on your scarf. You and Jenkins huddle shoulder to shoulder under one blanket, conserving heat. Around midnight, snow starts again, 3 inches in an hour. Perfect cover for a German attack. It comes at dawn's lowest ebb. Mortars first, accurately registered on your position. Then white-clad figures materialize through the snow. German infantry using the storm as cover. Contact front. American guns respond. Your M1 grows hot from firing. Jenkins is out of ammo. You toss him a bandolier. Germans breach the left flank. Murphy directs a squad to seal it. You spot and drop a German officer, but their advance continues. An American machine gun cuts them down. Murphy positioned it well. After 20 brutal minutes, the Germans withdraw, dragging their wounded. Murphy checks your position. Good work. Reports say they're pulling back to Jebsheim. We advance at first light. Jenkins marvels. He remembered my name. You reply, that's why we'd follow him anywhere. Dawn reveals the battlefield. Craters, shattered trees, dark shapes half buried in snow. Ammunition resupply arrives with miraculous hot coffee. You and Jenkins pass the thermos. Its warmth spreading through you like salvation. Company B reorganizes. 3 dead, 7 wounded evacuated. Others stay despite injuries. The code is simple. You don't abandon your brothers unless you can't continue. The advance resumes at mid-morning. Exhausting, vigilant progress through snow. By late afternoon, Jebsheim appears. Another stone village with a church steeple. Smoke rises. Artillery thunders. 3rd Battalion is already engaged. Murphy halts the company in woods half a mile out. Germans are dug in around the church, a company strong. House to house fighting. You and Jenkins prepare, cleaning rifles, checking ammo. He's changed. The nervous replacement is now a soldier. Stay close in urban combat, you advise. Watch windows. That's where their MGs will be. Murphy approaches. This will be tough. The Rhine is Germany's last natural barrier. They'll fight hard. We'll fight harder, sir. He smiles, that boyish grin. I know. That's why we'll win. At 1800, American artillery pounds Jebsheim. 5 minutes later, Company B advances in extended formation, each man 5 yards apart to minimize casualties. Halfway across the open field, German machine guns open up, the dreaded MG-42 buzzsaw. You and Jenkins dive into a ditch. Crawl forward. Use the ditch for cover. You belly crawl 15 yards to a fallen tree as bullets thunk into the wood. All along the line, Americans repeat this deadly dance. Rush, cover, suppress, rush again. Agonizingly slow progress, but progress. Murphy leads from the front, his small frame unmistakable in how he moves, deliberate, fearless. You reach the village outskirts as darkness falls. Street fighting, the most dangerous combat. Murphy organizes 4-man clearing teams. Your second team, following 1 minute after the first enters a building. At the designated time, Murphy's team kicks in a door. Gunfire erupts inside. You count seconds. Then lead your team to the next building, a possible shop with living quarters upstairs. The ajar door screams trap. You toss a grenade in first. After the blast, you storm inside. Jenkins covering left, you right. Ground floor clear. Upstairs, you find an elderly German couple cowering on a bed. Nichts Skiasen. Zivilisen. Don't shoot. Civilians. You tell them to stay put. You're not here for non-combatants. Outside, the village becomes a nightmare of flares, gunfire, and grenade blasts. House by house, Americans clear Yevsheim. Some buildings hold terrified civilians. Others, German soldiers fighting to the death or surrendering. By dawn, half the village is secured. Germans still hold the church, a fortress with MGs and snipers in the steeple. Murphy calls a halt for rest and resupply. In a damaged building, you and Jenkins collapse. He asks, "Do you think we'll make it?" "All the way. Some will, some won't. That's war." But Germans are running out of men and time. They can't win, just a matter of how long until they admit it. "If I make it," Jenkins says, reassembling his rifle, "I'll be a teacher. Make sure kids understand what this cost." Someone should remember. Exhaustion claims you both. Jenkins sleeps sitting up. You stare into dying embers, thinking of home and post-war life. If you survive. Eventually, sleep takes you too, dreaming not of war, but of peace, of a world worth fighting for. Murphy wakes you. Saddle up. We're moving. The brief rest is over. Outside, the winter sun shines on a shattered village. The church still stands, its defenders determined. The final push is coming. You check your gear, steady your breathing, and prepare. One village at a time. That's how wars are won. The morning light filters through the shattered church windows as Lieutenant Murphy gathers the squad leaders. His uniform is streaked with soot and dried blood, his eyes rimmed red from exhaustion. Yet his voice carries that same steady determination that's kept Company B alive through hell. "We take the church today," he says, tracing a finger across the map spread on an ammunition crate. Intel says they've got 2 MG-42s covering the square and at least 1 sniper in the steeple. "We'll hit them from 3 sides. You glance at Jenkins beside you. The kid's hands are steady as he checks his ammunition, but there's a new hardness around his eyes that wasn't there when he first arrived. He catches your look and gives a tight nod. No words needed. You've been through too much together already. The plan is simple enough on paper. First platoon will provide covering fire from the west, while second platoon flanks left through the ruined bakery. Your squad, 8 men including you and Jenkins, gets the dangerous honor of pushing straight up the main street toward the church steps under Murphy's personal command. Artillery softened them up at dawn. Murphy continues, but expect heavy resistance. Remember, speed and violence of action. We stop moving, we die. As the squad leaders disperse, Murphy pulls you aside. His breath forms quick clouds in the freezing air. "I want you and Jenkins on point when we go in. You've got the experience, he's got the reflexes." There's no room for argument in his tone, just quiet certainty that you'll get it done. You nod, feeling the weight of your M1 against your thigh. "We'll get you to those steps, sir." The hour before the attack passes in that strange limbo between dread and readiness. You check your gear with mechanical precision. 6 grenades secured to your webbing, bayonet sharp enough to shave with, canteen thawed enough for a few swallows of metallic-tasting water. Jenkins does the same beside you, his movements mirroring yours like you've trained him yourself. The cold seems to intensify as the minutes tick down, seeping through your layers until even your bones feel frozen. At exactly 0900, the supporting machine guns open up with their familiar rhythmic chatter. The signal. You take a deep breath that does nothing to calm your racing heart and move into position behind what's left of a stone wall. Murphy gives the hand signal. Forward, and you're moving. Jenkins at your elbow, the rest of the squad spreading out behind you. The first 20 yards are deceptively quiet, just the crunch of boots on snow and the distant pops of rifle fire. Then the Germans wake up. A machine gun nest hidden in the church's basement window opens fire, stitching a line of impacts across the cobblestones just ahead. You dive behind a burned-out truck, Jenkins slamming into the frozen mud beside you. Bullets ping off the metal as you press yourself flat. See the muzzle flash? You shout over the noise. 3 o'clock, basement window. Jenkins risks a quick look and nods. You pull a grenade from your webbing, yank the pin, and count to 3 before standing just long enough to lob it toward the window. The explosion sends stone fragments flying, and for a blessed moment, the machine gun falls silent. Go! You're up and moving before the dust settles. Jenkins right with you. The church looms larger with every step, its pockmarked stone walls towering over the square. Another 30 yards, then 20. Your lungs burn from the cold air and adrenaline. At 10 yards, the sniper in the steeple finally reveals himself. The shot cracks past your ear close enough that you feel the wind of it. Jenkins doesn't hesitate. He spins, brings his rifle up in one smooth motion, and fires twice. A dark shape tumbles from the bell tower. Then you're at the steps, pressed against the cold stone as the rest of the squad catches up. Murphy arrives last, his face flushed with exertion. Good work, he pants, checking his watch. Phase 2 in 60 seconds. You use the brief respite to reload, your fingers stiff with cold, but still obeying your commands. The grenade blast seems to have silenced the basement machine gun, but you can hear German voices shouting inside the church. Right on schedule, the flanking platoons open up from the sides, drawing enemy fire away from your position. Murphy doesn't waste the opportunity. Now, he kicks in the heavy wooden door, and you're through, rifle up and scanning for targets. The interior is dim after the bright snow outside, your eyes struggling to adjust. The smell hits you first, cordite, blood, and something more primal, the stench of men pushed beyond human limits. A German soldier emerges from the shadows near the altar, his rifle coming up. You fire first, the M1's report deafening in the enclosed space. He goes down without a sound. To your left, Jenkins engages another target near the pulpit. The church has become a deadly maze of overturned pews and makeshift barricades. You advance methodically, clearing each potential hiding spot. Murphy moves with you, directing fire with calm precision. In the confessional booth, you find a wounded German officer bleeding from a stomach wound. His pistol lies just out of reach. For a long moment, your eyes meet, his full of pain and resignation. Yours. You don't know what he sees in yours anymore. You kick the pistol further away and motion for Jenkins to check his wounds. The German whispers something in his language. He says thank you. Jenkins translates quietly. You nod and move on. The fighting lasts perhaps 20 minutes, though it feels like hours. By the time the church is secured, 3 more of your squad are wounded, 1 critically. The medics do what they can, but the blood loss is severe. You help carry him to the makeshift aid station set up in what was once the vestry, his blood warm and sticky on your hands despite the cold. Murphy finds you outside afterward, sitting on the church steps with your head in your hands. The adrenaline crash has left you shaking. He doesn't offer empty platitudes, just hands you a cigarette, a real one, not the usual ration garbage. We'll hold here tonight, he says, lighting it for you. Resupply and replacements coming in. Then push for the Rhine tomorrow. Jenkins joins you as Murphy walks away to check the perimeter. You okay? He asks, eyeing your bloodstained uniform. You take a long drag of the cigarette, savoring the burn in your lungs. Just tired, you answer truthfully. Tired of all of it. He sits beside you in silence for a while, watching the sun dip toward the horizon. The village is quiet now, the occasional pop of sniper fire replaced by the sounds of men digging in for the night. Somewhere, someone starts singing softly, an old folk song from home. After a while, Jenkins speaks again, his voice barely above a whisper. Do you think it'll ever really end? The war, I mean. You stare at the cigarette between your fingers, watching the smoke curl upward. Yeah, you say finally. One way or another, it always does. Night falls with its usual suddenness, the temperature dropping like a stone. You and Jenkins take shelter in the church basement, ironically the same position that machine gun nest had occupied earlier. The Germans left behind a small stove, and though it's risky to have any light at all, the chance to finally get warm is worth it. You huddle around its meager heat, passing a canteen of liberated German schnapps back and forth. It burns going down, but the warmth spreading through your core is almost worth the taste. Jenkins surprises you by producing a deck of cards from his pack. They're worn and creased, clearly well used. My dad gave me these before I shipped out. He explains, shuffling with practiced ease. Said every soldier needs something to remind him of home. You play a few hands of poker by candlelight, the game punctuated by distant artillery fire. For these brief moments, it's almost possible to pretend you're somewhere else. A backroom game in Ohio, maybe. Not a ruined church in occupied France. The illusion shatters when the shelling starts again. Close this time, maybe a mile out. German artillery probing the new American positions. You douse the candle instinctively, plunging the basement into darkness. The cards disappear back into Jenkins' pack as you both listen for the telltale whistle of incoming rounds. None come, but the moment of normalcy is gone. You take first watch while Jenkins tries to sleep. The basement walls are thick enough to block most of the cold, but the damp seeps into your bones anyway. Outside, the occasional flare lights up the night sky, casting eerie shadows through the broken stained glass above. Your mind wanders to Sarah's last letter. The one you've read so many times the paper is wearing thin at the folds. She'd written about spring coming to Ohio, about the apple blossoms on the tree behind her house. You try to picture it, the delicate pink flowers, the smell of fresh grass, but all you can see is snow and mud and blood. Jenkins stirs in his sleep, muttering something unintelligible. You let him rest. Tomorrow will be hard enough without adding exhaustion to the mix. The watch passes slowly. The only sounds the occasional scurrying of rats in the church walls and the distant rumble of engines. Reinforcements arriving or Germans withdrawing. You can't tell which. When it's finally time to switch, you nudge Jenkins awake as gently as you can. He comes alert instantly, the soldier's reflex that means he hasn't had a truly restful sleep in months. All quiet, he asks, rubbing his face. You nod. So far. Think the Germans are pulling back to the Rhine. He takes his position by the narrow basement window while you try to find a comfortable spot on the cold stone floor. Sleep comes fitfully, haunted by half-remembered faces and the ever-present ache of your body. Dawn arrives with the sound of engines and shouted orders. You blink awake to find Jenkins already packing his gear. Resupply's here, he says, tossing you a can of something that might charitably be called coffee. It's lukewarm and tastes like motor oil, but the caffeine is welcome. Outside, the village is bustling with activity. Fresh troops unloading supplies, medics tending to the wounded, sergeants barking orders. Murphy finds you near what's left of the church steps. He looks like he hasn't slept at all, but his uniform is clean and his boots freshly polished. We move out in 2 hours, he says without preamble. Full combat load, ammo, rations, the works. Intel says the Germans are digging in along the Rhine bridges. It's going to be a hard push. You nod, already mentally cataloging what gear needs checking. Any word on replacements for our losses? Murphy's face darkens slightly. Some green kids coming up from battalion. Try to keep them alive long enough to learn which end of the rifle to point at the enemy. There's bitterness in his voice you've never heard before. The 2 hours pass in a blur of preparation. You inspect every inch of your M1, knowing your life depends on its reliability. Fresh socks, God bless quartermasters, a new batch of K rations, and most precious of all, 2 full bandoliers of ammunition. Jenkins scores a pair of German binoculars from somewhere and a wool scarf that still smells like its previous owner's cologne. You don't ask where he got them. As promised, the replacements arrive. 6 fresh-faced boys who look like they should be in school, not war. You're assigned 2 of them to integrate into your squad. Their hands shake as they check their rifles, their eyes wide as they take in the battle-scarred village. Jenkins takes pity on them, showing them how to properly secure their gear for marching. You let him. He's earned the right to pass on what you've taught him. The company forms up at precisely 1,100 hours. Murphy walks the line one last time, checking each man personally. When he reaches you, there's something unreadable in his expression. This is it, he says quietly. One last push to the Rhine. After that, He doesn't need to finish the thought. After the Rhine lies Germany itself, the heart of the enemy. You adjust your helmet strap and heft your rifle. We'll get you there, sir. He clasps your shoulder briefly, his grip strong despite his size. I know you will. The order comes down the line, advance. And just like that, you're moving again, leaving the shattered village behind as Company B begins its march toward the Rhine. The replacements stick close, their nervous energy palpable. Jenkins walks point with you, his movements confident now, his rifle held at the ready. The snow has started again, soft flakes drifting down to coat the destruction in temporary purity. Somewhere ahead lies the river, and beyond it, the end of this long nightmare. You shift your weight, finding the rhythm of the march as your breath clouds in the cold air. 1 foot in front of the other. That's all it takes. 1 foot in front of the other until the job is done. The march toward the Rhine is slower than expected. Fresh snowfall has turned the roads into treacherous ribbons of ice and mud, forcing the column to weave between abandoned vehicles and frozen shell craters. Your breath comes in ragged clouds as you trudge forward, the weight of your pack digging into your shoulders. Beside you, Jenkins keeps pace effortlessly. The kid might still be green in some ways, but his legs are young and strong. One of the replacements, Private Dawson, barely 18 with a baby face that no amount of dirt can hide, stumbles over a hidden rut in the road. You grab his arm before he face plants into the slush. Watch your step, you grunt. Break an ankle out here, and you're as good as dead. He nods, wide-eyed, and adjusts his grip on his rifle. Lieutenant Murphy moves up and down the column, checking on the men. His presence alone seems to steady the new guys. When he passes your squad, he pauses to study the horizon through his binoculars. We'll hit the river by nightfall, he says quietly. Scouts report the Germans blew most of the bridges, but they're dug in along the east bank. Expect heavy resistance. Jenkins shifts his weight, rubbing his gloved hands together for warmth. Think they'll surrender once we cross, sir? Murphy's mouth tightens. Some will. Others, they'll fight for every inch. This is their homeland now. He claps Dawson on the shoulder. A small gesture, but the kid stands taller for it. Stay sharp. We'll get through this. The landscape grows more desolate as you advance. Charred farmhouses. Fields pockmarked with artillery shells. The occasional frozen corpse, left where it fell. Around midday, the column halts at a crossroads where a burned-out German half-track blocks the road. Engineers work to clear it while the rest of you take cover in a ditch, chewing on frozen K-ration biscuits. Dawson pulls a wrinkled photo from his pocket. A girl with dark curls, smiling beside a lake. My sister, he says when he catches you looking. She's a nurse in England. You don't tell him how many guys carry photos like that, only to end up folded into letters of condolence. Instead, you nod. Pretty. She got your looks, thank God. He grins, and for a second, he looks like what he is, a kid playing soldier. A whistle blows, the road's clear. You heft your rifle and fall back into formation. The rhythm of marching settles into your bones. Left, right, left, right. The cold numbs your face, but your feet ache with every step. By late afternoon, the terrain slopes downward, and the air carries a new dampness. Then you see it, the Rhine, a wide, slate-gray expanse cutting through the snow-covered hills. From this distance, it looks peaceful, deceptive. Murphy calls a halt at the edge of a bombed-out village overlooking the river. Dig in, he orders. We cross at dawn. You and Jenkins claim a shell crater near the bluff's edge, scraping out a shallow foxhole. The ground is frozen solid, but you've learned tricks, using grenades, carefully, to blast loose the top layer, then piling the debris into a low wall. Dawson and the other replacement, a quiet farm boy named Ellis, watch and mimic your movements. As twilight falls, the Germans across the river remind you they're still there. A mortar round screams in, exploding 50 yards to your left. Dirt and snow rain down. Keep your heads down, you bark at the new guys. They're just probing. Jenkins peers over the crater's edge with his scavenged binoculars. Lights moving on the far bank. Trucks, maybe. Murphy crawls over to join you, his face grim in the fading light. We've got boats coming tonight. Storm boats, fast, light. But they'll see us coming a mile off. He doesn't say what you're all thinking. This will be a slaughter. Dinner is another round of K rations. This time the infamous ham and lima beans. You trade yours to Jenkins for his fruit bar. You're a masochist, he says, grinning as he digs into the gloopy mess. Ellis, the farm kid, surprises you by producing a small tin of Real coffee from his pack. Ma sent it, he mumbles. Said the army stuff would poison me. You boil water over a carefully shielded flame, and for a few glorious minutes, the four of you pass the tin cup back and forth, savoring the rich, bitter warmth. It's the closest thing to home you've tasted in months. The coffee's gone too soon. Night settles in, and with it, the temperature plummets. You take first watch while the others huddle under their blankets. The river below glints under a half moon, its surface broken by drifting ice. Somewhere out there, the Germans are waiting. You think of Sarah's letters, of the porch swing where you used to sit on summer evenings. The memory is so vivid you can almost smell the honeysuckle. Then a flare arcs over the river, bathing everything in eerie white light, and the fantasy shatters. Jenkins relieves you at midnight. Get some sleep, he whispers. Big day tomorrow. You try, but every time you close your eyes, you see the river widening, the far shore receding, and the boats, so small against that vast, dark water. Dawn comes too soon. The boats arrive under cover of darkness. Flimsy plywood things that look like they'd struggle in a bathtub, let alone a combat crossing. Murphy gathers the platoon leaders for final instructions while the rest of you check gear one last time. Dawson's hands shake as he loads his rifle. You'll be fine, you tell him, adjusting his helmet strap. Stay low, move fast, and stick with me. He nods, swallowing hard. The order comes quietly. Load up. You clamber into the boat with Jenkins, Dawson, Ellis, and four others. Murphy takes the helm, his jaw set. The engine coughs to life, a sound that seems deafening in the pre-dawn hush. Then you're moving, the boat skimming across the black water. The far bank is a dark smudge, growing larger by the second. Your heart hammers against your ribs. Halfway across, the Germans open fire. The first machine gun burst kicks up geysers of water just yards from the boat. The sound is unreal, like someone tearing the sky in half. Get down, Murphy roars, yanking the tiller hard to starboard. You flatten yourself against the damp plywood as bullets stitch across the bow, splinters exploding like shrapnel. Dawson whimpers beside you, his fingers clawing at the deck. Ellis, the farm kid, is praying loudly. Not the polished verses from Sunday school, but a raw, gasping plea to anyone who'll listen. Jenkins doesn't make a sound. His jaw is clenched so tight you can see the muscle twitching. The boat slews wildly as Murphy zigzags across the current. The motor screams in protest, its whine climbing to a fever pitch. Cold spray slaps your face. Mingling with the coppery taste of blood, you bit your tongue when the first rounds hit. Ahead, the far bank resolves into individual trees, trenches, muzzle flashes. Too many muzzle flashes. Then the world erupts. An artillery shell lands 20 yards off the port side, lifting a column of water high enough to drench you all. The concussion rattles your teeth. Another lands closer, 10 yards now, and suddenly the boat is tilting, swamped by the wave. Bail, someone shouts, and you're scooping icy water with your helmet alongside Jenkins, who's using his cupped hands. The motor dies. For one terrible moment, there's only the sound of water lapping and distant gunfire. Then Murphy's barking orders. Paddles out. Dawson, Ellis, port side. Richards, Jenkins, starboard. You fumble for the paddle, your numbed fingers barely obeying. The boat crawls forward. A bullet punches through the hull with a wet thunk. Then another. Water rises around your ankles. 200 yards. Murphy gauges the distance with a practiced eye. The bank is close enough now to see individual Germans in their foxholes. Close enough to watch one stand. Im a Panzerfaust. Jesus Christ. The rocket-propelled grenade misses by inches, its backblast illuminating the terrified faces in the boat. The explosion behind you sends a shockwave that nearly capsizes the craft. Water's at your knees now. Abandoned ship. Murphy bellows. Swim for it. You grab Dawson's collar as he hesitates. Now, kid. The three of you go over the side together. The cold is a knife to the lungs. Your gear drags you down, the Rhine's current tugging insistently. Somewhere to your left, Jenkins is swimming like a madman, his rifle held high. Bullets pepper the water around you. Dawson screams as one grazes his arm, but he keeps moving. The bank looms, 15 yards, then 10. Your boots hit mud. You stagger ashore, heaving Dawson onto the gravel before turning to cover Jenkins' approach with your M1. 3 quick shots at a German position, more to suppress than to hit. Jenkins crashes onto the bank beside you, gasping. Ellis, you skin the water. The farm boy surfaces 30 yards downstream, fighting the current. Murphy's already moving toward him, firing his pistol one-handed at a German machine gun nest. Then Ellis disappears under the water. He doesn't come up. There's no time to mourn. The Germans have zeroed in on your landing spot. Move. You drag Dawson inland, Jenkins providing covering fire. The rest of the platoon is scattered along the bank. Some made it, some didn't. A few boats burn brightly on the water, illuminating the chaos. Murphy catches up, his uniform dripping. Regroup at the tree line. He points to a dark smudge of forest 100 yards inland. Go. You run, Dawson stumbling beside you. The mud sucks at your boots. A flare bursts overhead, casting monstrous shadows. Someone behind you screams as they step on a mine. The explosion sends you sprawling. Jenkins hauls you up. Keep moving. The trees, when you reach them, offer scant cover. The platoon assembles by 2s and 3s, maybe half of what started the crossing. Murphy does a quick head count, his face grim. We push east, he says. Link up with Baker Company at the rail junction. Dawson's shaking violently now, shock setting in. You rip open his sleeve to check the wound, a clean through and through. You'll live, you tell him, packing it with sulfa powder from your first aid kit. He doesn't respond, just stares at the river where Ellis went down. There's no time for gentleness. You slap his cheek, not hard, but enough. Focus. You freeze up now, you die. Understood. He blinks, then nods. The advance inland is a nightmare of hedgerows and ambushes. German snipers take shots from farmhouse windows. A machine gun nest in a barn pins you down for 20 minutes until Murphy flanks it with grenades. By midday, you've lost 3 more men. At a bombed-out inn, Murphy calls a halt. 10 minutes, he says, checking his map. The rail junction is another mile east. Jenkins slumps against a wall, his hands trembling now that the adrenaline's fading. You pass him your canteen. The water's half frozen, but he gulps it gratefully. Ellis had that coffee tin in his pack, he mutters. Damn waste. You don't answer. There's nothing to say. Dawson surprises you both by producing a small flask from his inner pocket. Whiskey, he says hoarsely. From my dad. Said to save it for when I needed it. He takes a swig, then passes it. The burn is glorious. Murphy appears in the doorway, his expression unreadable. We move out in 2. Baker Company's reporting heavy resistance at the junction. He eyes the flask, but says nothing. You stand, your body protesting every movement. The whiskey's warmth is already fading. Let's finish this. The rail junction, when you reach it, is a scene from hell. Baker Company's survivors are pinned down in the station house, their dead strewn across the tracks. German artillery walks shells down the line methodically. Murphy surveys the carnage, then turns to you. Take Jenkins and flank that 88. He points to an artillery piece dug in behind a pile of rubble. We'll provide covering fire. You nod, already checking your grenades. 3 left. Jenkins has 2. It'll have to be enough. The crawl through the drainage ditch is a test of endurance. Broken glass and frozen mud tear at your elbows. German voices carry clearly in the cold air. They're close, maybe 15 yards. Jenkins taps your boot, the signal. You peer over the ditch's edge. The 88's crew is reloading, their backs turned. Perfect. You pull the pin on your first grenade, count to 2, then lob it. Jenkins follows half a second later. The double explosion sends body parts and gun fragments raining down. Before the dust settles, you're up and charging, rifles blazing. The surviving Germans scatter. One turns to fight, Jenkins cuts him down with a 3-round burst. The 88 is out of commission, its barrel twisted like a pretzel. You collapse behind its shattered shield, gulping air. Jenkins checks the German bodies for intel, his hands steady despite the carnage. A whistle sounds, Murphy's signal. The attack is working. By dusk, the junction is yours. The cost? 8 more men, including 2 from your squad. You help stack the German dead in a makeshift morgue, boys mostly, younger than Dawson. Their uniforms are shabby, their boots falling apart. The Reich is running on fumes. Murphy finds you cleaning your rifle by torchlight. We hold here tonight, he says, dropping a captured German blanket beside you. Division's bringing up pontoons at first light. Jenkins looks up from his can of lukewarm stew. Then what, sir? Murphy's smile is thin. Then we go to Berlin. The night at the rail junction passes in fitful bursts of sleep and sudden alarms. German artillery peppers the area sporadically, not precise fire, just enough to keep everyone on edge. You take watch with Jenkins in the shell-cratered signal tower, its glassless windows offering a panoramic view of the moonlit tracks. Dawson dozes fitfully below, his bandaged arm cradled like a child. The kid cried himself to sleep earlier, quietly, so the others wouldn't hear. You don't mention it. Some pains are private. Look at this, Jenkins murmurs, holding up a German soldier's diary he scavenged from the 88 crew. Even in the dim moonlight, you can see the precise handwriting, the dates marching neatly down the pages until they stop abruptly 3 days ago. Says here his unit hadn't eaten real rations in a week. We're down to slaughtering stray dogs. He flips a page. Last entry's about his daughter's birthday. He missed it. You stare at the distant fires burning on the horizon. Toss it. Jenkins hesitates, then tucks the diary into his pack. Might have intel value. You let it go. Everyone copes differently. Dawn arrives with freezing fog that clings to everything. The promised pontoons materialize, a rickety procession of rubber boats and makeshift rafts ferrying tanks and heavy weapons across the Rhine. By 0800, the entire battalion is consolidating on the east bank, their breath rising in great clouds as they assemble. Murphy gathers the platoon leaders near a shot-up freight car. His uniform is crusted with dried river mud, but his eyes are alert. We've got orders to push toward Aschaffenburg, he says, tracing the route on a water-stained map. Intel says the town's defended by Volkssturm, old men and Hitler youth mostly, but they've got a few regular army units stiffening the resistance. One of the new replacements, a lanky sergeant fresh from the States, snorts. Home guard, this'll be a cakewalk. The temperature seems to drop 10 degrees as Murphy turns to him. Those old men grew up hunting in these woods. The kids? They've been fed Nazi lies since they could walk. They'll fight like cornered rats because they think they've got nothing left to lose. He folds the map with deliberate calm. No such thing as an easy fight in Germany, Sergeant. The sergeant flushes but holds his tongue. You spend the morning clearing farmhouses along the advance route. The first 2 are abandoned, their larders stripped bare. The third holds a terrified family, a grandfather, his daughter, 2 grandchildren. They huddle around a single potato cooking in the fireplace. The old man offers his Iron Cross from the Great War as proof he's no Nazi. You leave them a can of corned beef despite regulations. Jenkins slips the kids chocolate from his rations when he thinks no one's looking. At noon, the column halts at the edge of a pine forest. Scouts report dug-in positions ahead, machine gun nests camouflaged among the trees. Murphy motions you forward. Take Jenkins and 2 others. See if there's a way around. You pick Dawson and the lanky sergeant. Better to keep the troublemaker where you can see him. The 4 of you slip into the woods, moving with the cautious precision of men who know how easily a snapped twig can mean death. The German position is clever. 3 MG-42s set in a triangle formation, their fields of fire overlapping perfectly. No way to approach unseen. You're about to signal the retreat when Jenkins spots the creek. It's barely more than a drainage ditch, half filled with icy runoff, but it winds behind the German lines. We could crawl it, he whispers. The sergeant balks. That water's freezing. You give him a look that shuts him up. 20 minutes later, you're submerged to your chin in water so cold it feels like burning, your rifle held overhead as you inch forward. Dawson's teeth chatter loud enough to wake the dead, but the Germans are too focused on the road to notice. The creek bends sharply, putting you directly behind the central machine gun nest. 3 Germans, 2 boys no older than 16 and a grizzled veteran with a missing ear, are passing a cigarette between them. You raise your dripping M1. The fight is short and brutal. The veteran spins, reaching for his Luger. You drop him with a shot to the chest. Jenkins takes the kid on the left. The last German freezes, his hands half raised, his Adam's apple bobbing. Dawson hesitates. The sergeant doesn't. His bullet punches through the boy's forehead before you can blink. Jesus Christ. Dawson gasps. He was reaching. The sergeant snaps, already moving to the MG-42. Jenkins catches your eye. Neither of you saw any movement. But the deed's done. You disable the other 2 machine guns with grenades down their barrels, then signal the advance with a flare. The battalion moves through the shattered German position like a tide, their boots churning the snow to mud. Murphy finds you wringing water from your socks near a captured field kitchen. Good work, he says, handing you a steaming mug of ersatz coffee the Germans left behind. It tastes like burnt acorns, but it's hot. Dawson sits apart, staring at his hands. The sergeant brags loudly about killing Nazis to a group of replacements. Jenkins watches him with undisguised contempt. Aschaffenburg looms by late afternoon. A medieval town of half-timbered houses now fortified with anti-tank barriers and sniper nests. Artillery has already begun softening the defenses, the shells walking methodically through the outskirts. Murphy briefs the company behind a ruined brick factory. We go in at dusk. House to house, same as France. His gaze lingers on the sergeant. Prisoners will be taken where possible. Understood. The man nods, but there's a smirk playing at his lips. You clean your rifle one last time, the familiar routine calming your nerves. Jenkins checks his grenade supply, down to 1 now. Dawson sits silently, his bandage seeping fresh blood. The sergeant holds court nearby, regaling the new men with exaggerated exploits. And then I shoved my knife right through his. Jenkins stands abruptly, his chair scraping. Shut the hell up. The clearing goes silent. The sergeant blinks. What's your problem, kid? That kid you murdered today? He was surrendering. A dangerous glint enters the sergeant's eyes. You calling me a liar? Murphy appears like a ghost between them. Enough. His voice could freeze fire. We've got a town to take. Save your energy for the enemy. The tension doesn't dissipate, just goes underground to fester. At 1800, the artillery lifts. The attack begins. The first 10 minutes of the assault unfold with eerie precision. Your platoon advancing under smoke cover, leapfrogging between shattered storefronts while machine guns provide suppressing fire from the factory ruins. Then the Germans wake up. A hidden anti-tank gun opens fire from the town square, its shell vaporizing 2 men from Baker Company in a pink mist. Rifle fire erupts from upper-story windows, the bullets pinging off cobblestones like deadly hail. You drag Dawson into the cover of a butcher shop. Its window displays now just jagged glass teeth. Jenkins kicks open the back door, clearing the kitchen with practiced sweeps. Clear. Murphy coordinates the advance via field radio, his voice calm despite the chaos. Richards, take your squad left down that alley. Flank that 88. You motion to Jenkins and Dawson. The sergeant glares, but follows with his group of replacements. The alley is narrow, strewn with broken bottles and the corpse of a German shepherd, recently killed, its blood still steaming in the cold. Halfway down, a cellar door bursts open. A white-haired Volkssturm soldier in mismatched uniform levels a hunting rifle. Dawson freezes. The shot goes high, splintering wood above your head. Before the old man can work the bolt, Jenkins puts 3 rounds into his chest. He collapses backward down the stairs without a sound. You edge forward, rifle trained on the darkness below. The cellar holds a makeshift aid station, 2 wounded Hitler Youth boys, maybe 14 years old, and a nurse in a Red Cross armband. One kid clutches a Panzerfaust like a security blanket. His legs end in bloody bandages at the knees. The sergeant pushes past you, his rifle rising. Nest of vipers. Jenkins slams him against the wall, his forearm pressed under the man's chin. They're done. Look at them. The nurse stands protectively in front of the boys, her hands raised. Bit, she pleads. Murphy's voice crackles over the radio in your pack. Status? You key the mic, eyes locked on the standoff. Cellar secured. 3 non-combatants. A beat. 1 wounded enemy combatant. The sergeant's face purples with rage, but he lowers his rifle when Murphy orders the squad to fall back to the main advance. Jenkins stays behind to guard the cellar, a silent rebuke. The town square becomes a slaughterhouse. German defenders pour fire from the medieval town hall's clock tower, while American tanks blast its lower floors to rubble. You take cover behind an overturned tram car with Murphy, watching as Baker Company's lead platoon gets pinned down in the open. Someone needs to silence that tower, Murphy mutters. Then, before you can stop him, he's sprinting across the killing zone, dodging tracers like some damned Hollywood hero. You and Jenkins provide covering fire as he scales the town hall's shattered facade, grenades strapped to his belt like some insane mountaineer. For 3 heart-stopping minutes, there's no sign of him, just the relentless machine gun fire. Then the tower explodes. Not the Hollywood kind. No fireball, just a series of muffled thumps as Murphy's grenades detonate inside the stone structure. The machine gun falls silent. Smoke pours from the arrow slits. He emerges minutes later, covered in plaster dust, but otherwise unharmed. The Germans in the square begin surrendering in waves after that. Old men and boys mostly, their weapons clattering to the cobblestones. Dusk finds you billeted in a looted bakery, its ovens cold, but its storeroom miraculously intact. Dawson discovers a cache of marzipan candies hidden beneath flour sacks. You divide them equally, even giving the sergeant his share, a peace offering he accepts with a grudging nod. Jenkins tends to the Hitler Youth prisoner's stumps with surprising gentleness. The kid keeps repeating Danke between sobs. You pretend not to notice the SS blood-type tattoo under his arm when you help carry him to the aid station. Murphy reviews maps with the company commanders by lantern light. Regiments pushing for Nuremberg next, he tells you during a brief respite. They want it before Hitler's birthday. You chew your marzipan slowly, savoring the almond sweetness. Think he'll still be throwing parties in his bunker? Murphy's smile doesn't reach his eyes. I think some people won't stop dancing until the roof caves in. That night, the sergeant approaches you as you clean your rifle. About earlier. You keep scrubbing the barrel. We're all tired. He hesitates, then sits on the stool beside you. Back in the States, I was a butcher. Thought war would be cleaner somehow. A pause. It's not. Outside, artillery rumbles in the distance, the war moving on without you. For tonight at least, you're alive. That's victory enough. Dawn over Aschaffenburg arrives with the shriek of whistles and the rumble of diesel engines. You blink awake in the bakery's flour-dusted storeroom, your body protesting every movement. Jenkins is already up, his face half-shadowed in the gray light as he methodically checks each bullet in his bandolier before slotting them into fresh clips. Sleep at all? You ask, rolling your stiff shoulders. He shakes his head. Kept thinking about that kid, the one with no legs. His fingers pause on a dented round. Medic said he probably won't make it. There's nothing to say to that. You both know the statistics. For every frontline casualty, 2 more die in aid stations, 3 in field hospitals. The math is merciless. Outside, the battalion assembles in the town square, their breath fogging in the cold air. The night's snowfall has softened the destruction, draping white sheets over broken walls and the blackened skeletons of German vehicles. It's almost beautiful in a ghastly way. Murphy briefs the company near the ruined town hall, his voice carrying easily in the crisp air. We're spearheading the push to Nuremberg. Intel says the Germans are falling back to their national redoubt in the Alps, but they'll fight hard for symbolic cities along the way. He taps the map. First objective is this river crossing at Miltenberg. Expect heavy resistance. The sergeant, Peterson, you've learned his name is now, listens intently, his earlier bravado replaced by a quiet focus. Whatever demons he wrestled with last night seem to have settled, at least temporarily. Dawson stands beside him, his wounded arm freshly bandaged, his eyes still haunted but clear. The march out of Aschaffenburg is surreal. Civilians emerge from cellars to watch you pass. Hollow-eyed women clutching children, old men who stare with expressions you can't decipher. One girl, no older than 8, runs forward to press a wilted flower into Jenkins' hand before darting back to her mother's skirts. He carries it tucked in his helmet strap until it disintegrates from the cold. The countryside changes as you move south. The pine forests give way to rolling vineyards, their winter bare trellises stretching in perfect rows like the ribs of some buried giant. The roads are clogged with refugees, families pushing handcarts piled with possessions, Wehrmacht stragglers who've traded their rifles for civilian clothes. Most scatter at the sight of your column. A few stand and watch with empty eyes. At midday, the company halts beside a bombed-out railroad bridge. Murphy sends your squad to scout the riverbank while engineers assess the crossing. The main river here is narrower than the Rhine, but faster moving. Its dark water choked with ice flows. Jenkins spots the dugout first, a cleverly camouflaged position beneath the bridge's stone abutment. You signal the squad to take cover as Peterson creeps forward, his rifle at the ready. The rest of you cover him, fingers tense on triggers. Empty, he calls after a tense minute. But recently used. Inside, the hideout still smells of cigarette smoke and sweat. A makeshift table holds a half-eaten meal of black bread and some unidentifiable meat. Dawson pokes at it with his bayonet. Dog. Don't ask. You advise, examining the map left behind. It's hand-drawn, marking American positions in precise detail. They've been watching us. Peterson finds the real prize, a field telephone wired back toward Miltenberg. He grins for the first time in days. Let's give them something to listen to. Murphy approves the ruse when you report back. For the next hour, the squad stages an elaborate charade into the phone's mouthpiece. Fake troop movements, exaggerated casualty reports, even a drunken-sounding rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner. Jenkins does an eerily accurate impression of a panicked lieutenant calling for artillery support. Whether the Germans believe it or not, the crossing goes smoothly. By dusk, the entire battalion is dug in on the southern bank, their positions overlooking the lights of Miltenberg twinkling in the distance. The town looks peaceful, deceptively so. That night, Murphy joins your foxhole watch rotation. It's an unusual break from protocol, but no one comments. Officers get lonely too. You ever think about after? He asks during his shift, staring at the distant town. The moonlight catches the new streaks of gray in his hair. After the war? You consider lying, then shrug. Sometimes. Mostly I think about not getting shot tomorrow. He chuckles softly. Fair enough. A pause. They want me to do a war bond tour when this is over. Stand on stages, tell stories. You'd be good at it. Would I? He sounds genuinely uncertain, a rare crack in the legend. The stories they want aren't the ones I have. Before you can respond, a flare arcs over Miltenberg, bathing the valley in eerie green light. Everyone tenses, rifles coming up, but no attack follows. Just some German unit's idea of nerves. The silence afterward feels heavier. Murphy stands, brushing dirt from his uniform. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Dawson wakes you at 0400 for your watch. The pre-dawn cold is brutal, seeping through every layer. You pass a canteen of coffee back and forth. Real coffee this time, liberated from the Aschaffenburg bakery. It's gone stale but still beats the usual swill. Think we'll take the town today? Dawson asks, his breath fogging. Before you can answer, the horizon erupts in fire. Not German artillery. The entire eastern sky lights up with the distinctive ripple of Katyusha rockets. The Russian front. The bombardment goes on for a full minute, the distant thunder rolling across the valley. When it stops, an unnatural silence follows. Even the birds have gone quiet. Dawson's eyes are wide. Jesus, that's got to be 20 miles away. You nod, watching the glow on the horizon. The war's noose tightens. Somewhere over there, the Red Army is advancing just like you are. The thought should be comforting. It isn't. At dawn, The attack on Miltenberg begins with an artillery barrage that shakes the ground beneath your feet. The shells walk methodically through the town's outskirts, geysers of dirt and debris marking their passage. Murphy gathers the platoon leaders for final instructions. Prisoners where possible, he stresses, with a pointed look at Peterson. But don't hesitate if they're armed. Intel says there's a Waffen-SS battalion mixed in with the Volkssturm here. The sergeant nods, his jaw set. You check your gear one last time. Rifle cleaned and oiled despite the cold, bayonet sharp, grenade secured. Jenkins does the same beside you, his movements calm and precise. Dawson fumbles with his ammo pouches until Peterson reaches over to adjust them without a word. The moment stretches, taut as a bowstring. Then Murphy's whistle pierces the air, and the line advances toward the smoking town. The assault on Miltenberg unfolds with a surreal duality, precision and chaos dancing their macabre waltz. Artillery has reduced the outer neighborhoods to skeletal remains of homes, their broken beams jutting like ribs from the rubble. Yet as you advance through the smoke, you notice odd pockets of untouched normalcy. A child's bicycle leaning against a fence, laundry still fluttering on a clothesline, the smell of fresh bread wafting from some hidden bakery. Jenkins spots the first sniper, a flicker of movement in a church steeple. His warning shout saves Dawson from taking a bullet to the neck. The round instead grazes his helmet, spinning him to the ground. You return fire while Peterson drags the dazed private behind a stone wall. "Still with us, kid?" you ask, checking Dawson's pupils. He blinks rapidly. "Think so, but my ears won't stop ringing." Murphy signals from across the street where he's directing a bazooka team. The backblast of their rocket illuminates his face in orange as the steeple explodes in a shower of wood and slate. House to house, clearing begins in earnest. The Volkssturm defenders fight with shocking ferocity for men who should have been pensioners decades ago. An elderly German wielding a World War I-era rifle wounds two of Peterson's replacements before Jenkins takes him down with a single shot. The man's spectacles lie unbroken in the street until an American tank crushes them under its treads. At noon, you secure a foothold in the town square. The medieval fountain still bubbles merrily, its stone nymphs now pockmarked by shrapnel. Murphy sets up a command post in the Rathaus, while squads fan out to silence remaining strongpoints. Your team draws the hospital, a 3-story brick building flying Red Cross flags, but intelligence insists SS officers are using it as a command center. Approaching the entrance, you notice the first red flag, sandbag machine gun nests flanking the doors, their crews in proper Wehrmacht uniforms rather than medical staff. "Those don't look like doctors," mutters Jenkins. Murphy arrives with reinforcements, his face grim as he surveys the setup. "We do this by the book. Richards, take your squad around back. Peterson, cover the side exits. I'll lead the frontal team." The breach is textbook perfect. Flashbangs precede your entry, the concussions echoing through tiled hallways as you clear room after room. The ground floor holds genuine patients, civilians mostly, their faces gaunt with malnutrition. An elderly nurse stands protectively in front of a children's ward, her arms spread. "Kane's Soldaten here." You lower your rifle slightly. "Where are the SS?" Her eyes flick involuntarily upward. The second floor is a different story. You find them in the surgical theater, 3 SS officers hunched over maps, their black uniforms crisp against the sterile white walls. They look up in unison as you burst in, their movements almost comically slow, like actors in a bad play. The tallest one reaches for his sidearm. Jenkins doesn't hesitate. His burst catches the SS officer's center mass, slamming him against the instrument trays. The other two raise their hands slowly. "Neen." One stammers in accented English. "We are doctors." You yank open his collar, revealing the telltale blood-type tattoo. Funny kind of doctor. Murphy arrives as you're securing the prisoners. His gaze sweeps the operating table, strewn not with medical tools, but aerial reconnaissance photos of American positions. "Get these bastards to interrogation," he orders. Then, softer, "and find the real staff. I want to know what they saw." The basement holds the answer. The hospital's legitimate doctors and nurses are locked in a storage room, half-starved but alive. They babble grateful thanks as you free them, their fingers clutching at your uniform like drowning men. One young intern keeps repeating Zwangsarbeit and gesturing upstairs, forced labor. It's Dawson who finds the real horror. Behind a false wall in the boiler room, stacked like cordwood, are the bodies. Dozens of them. Some in hospital gowns, others in civilian clothes. A few were the striped uniforms of concentration camp inmates. The smell hits you like a physical blow, sweet and putrid, the stench of industrialized death. Peterson stumbles outside to vomit. Jenkins just stands there, his face pale under the dirt. Why? The answer comes from a liberated nurse as she tends to Dawson's head wound upstairs. Medical experiments, she whispers. Blood transfusions. Frost tolerance tests. They kept records on everything. She presses a folded paper into your hand, a list of names and numbers. For when the trials come. Night falls over a conquered but hollow victory. The battalion secures the town, but no one celebrates. Even the usually raucous engineers drink in silence around their fires. Murphy finds you on the hospital roof, staring at the stars. He's holding 2 cups of real coffee, actual beans, not the usual chicory swill. From the SS officer's private stash, he explains, handing you one. The brew is rich and dark, flavored with something expensive. It tastes like ashes. They knew, you say at last. Those bastards upstairs. They knew they'd lost, but they kept at it anyway. Murphy exhales slowly, watching his breath fog in the cold air. Some men would rather burn the world than admit defeat. Below you, Miltenberg sleeps, or tries to. The occasional gunshot still rings out as squads clear final pockets of resistance. Somewhere in the darkness, a woman sobs uncontrollably. You finish the coffee in silence. Tomorrow, the road to Nuremberg awaits. The road to Nuremberg is a study in contrasts. Crumbling Third Reich grandeur giving way to the relentless pragmatism of war. You march past bullet-riddled propaganda posters still screaming, Sieg oder Sibirien. Victory or Siberia, their colors fading under winter rains. Cratered autobahns lined with abandoned Tiger tanks, their massive guns now silent. Villages where white sheets hang from every window, their inhabitants peering from doorways with expressions caught between relief and terror. Dawson's head wound festers despite the nurse's care. By the 3rd day of marching, he drifts in and out of coherence, his steps growing increasingly unsteady. Peterson ends up carrying half the kids' gear without complaint, his earlier bravado replaced by a quiet, almost paternal concern. Just a little further. The sergeant murmurs each time Dawson stumbles, adjusting the private's grip on his rifle. Nuremberg's got real medics. Jenkins walks point, his sharp eyes missing nothing. He's developed an uncanny sense for booby traps, spotting the nearly invisible wire across the road outside a seemingly abandoned farmhouse, the 2 perfectly stacked rubble that might conceal a mine. When questioned, he just shrugs. Grew up hunting tripwires in Pennsylvania coal country. Company stores like to keep unionizers out. The landscape grows increasingly surreal as you near Nuremberg. Vast fields dotted with half-built Messerschmitt jets, their assembly lines now quiet. A train loaded with brand-new Panther tanks, all destroyed by their own crews to prevent capture. Most haunting are the slave labor camps, their skeletal inmates still wandering the fences like ghosts, unsure what to do with their sudden freedom. Murphy orders the company to share rations with a group of liberated Polish prisoners. Their hollow-cheeked leader kisses his hand and presses it to your unit patch, babbling thanks in broken English. One man collapses and dies on the spot, his stomach unable to handle the rich American food. No one speaks as you bury him beside the road. April 16th dawns with an ominous rumble, not artillery, but thunder. The sky darkens as you reach the outskirts of Nuremberg, the city's medieval walls now reinforced with concrete anti-tank barriers. Rain begins falling in sheets, turning the roads to rivers of mud. Murphy briefs the platoon leaders in the relative dryness of a bombed-out beer hall. The massive fresco of Germanic heroes on its ceiling now stares down at American maps spread across beer-stained tables. Divisions throwing everything at this, Murphy says, tracing attack routes with a water-stained finger. The Nazis picked Nuremberg for their rallies. We're going to make sure it's where their empire ends. His pointer taps the iconic Zeppelin field. This is our objective. Intel says they've got 88s dug into the grandstands, and a company of Hitler Youth hopped up on Pervidin holding the perimeter. Peterson lets out a low whistle. Doped up kids. That's ugly. Murphy's expression doesn't change. We go in at dawn. Tonight, I want double watches in. A commotion outside cuts him off. Shouted orders. The sharp crack of a single pistol shot. You're first to the door, rifle ready. The scene outside stops you cold. Dawson stands in the rain, his sidearm dangling from limp fingers. At his feet lies a German soldier, barely 15 by the look of him, dressed in a mishmash of Hitler Youth and Volkssturm uniforms. The boy's rifle lies unused in the mud, his hands still raised in surrender. A dark stain spreads across his chest. "Aye." He came out of the trees. Dawson stammers, his eyes wild. "I thought." Murphy steps forward slowly, like approaching a spooked horse. He gently removes the pistol from Dawson's grip. "Go sit down, Private." The company medic pronounces the German boy dead within seconds. No one speaks as you roll him into a crater and cover the body with a rain poncho. The shot seems to have drained the last of Dawson's strength. He collapses shortly after, burning with fever. That night, as the company digs in around the beer hall, Peterson seeks you out. His hands shake as he lights a cigarette. "That could have been me," he says at last, staring at the crater where the boy lies. "Back at the cellar. If you hadn't been there." You don't answer. The rain fills the silence. Dawn brings no respite from the downpour. If anything, it falls harder, turning the battlefield into a quagmire. Dawson gets evacuated with a dozen other fever cases as the company forms up for the assault. His last conscious act is pressing his sister's photo into your hand. "Give this back when you know." The attack begins with a creeping artillery barrage, the shells walking ahead of the infantry like an invisible plow. You advance through streets that were picturesque half-timbered houses just months ago, now reduced to kindling by Allied bombs. German resistance is sporadic but fanatical. A squad of Hitler Youth ambush Baker Company with Panzerfausts, destroying 2 Shermans before being wiped out. Their leader can't be older than 14. Zeppelin Field emerges from the rain like some pagan temple, its massive stone columns and swastika banners now pockmarked by shellfire. The grandstand's 88s open up as you cross the last 100 yards of open ground, their high-velocity rounds tearing men apart with terrifying efficiency. Murphy's plan is simple madness. While the bulk of the company keeps the gunners distracted, he leads your squad on a flanking maneuver through the field's drainage tunnels. The passages are pitch black, ankle-deep in frigid water, and likely mined. You move single file, each man gripping the belt of the one ahead like children playing some deadly game of follow the leader. The tunnel dumps you out beneath the grandstands. Murphy goes first, climbing a maintenance ladder with his Colt .45 in his teeth. What follows is close-quarters slaughter, your squad emerging behind the gun crews, cutting them down before they can turn their massive weapons. Jenkins takes a bullet to the shoulder during the fight, but keeps advancing, his rifle spitting fire. Peterson becomes a man possessed, clearing bunkers with grenades and bayonet. When the last German surrenders, a sobbing teenager clutching a bandaged arm, the sergeant simply disarms him and shoves him toward the medics. By noon, the field is yours. The rain finally eases as Murphy orders the swastika banners torn down. As the largest one flutters to the mud, a strange sound ripples through the exhausted men. Not quite cheering, not quite crying, but something raw and in between. You find Jenkins sitting against a grandstand pillar, letting a medic patch his shoulder. "Nick the bone," he says through gritted teeth. "But I'll live." Peterson arrives with looted German schnapps. The 3 of you pass the bottle in silence, watching as engineers begin demolishing the Nazi insignia on the speaker's podium. Each explosion sends another piece of the regime crumbling into history. That night, division headquarters announces Hitler's suicide over the radio. The news spreads through the camp like wildfire, but the expected celebration never materializes. Men sit quietly, cleaning weapons, writing letters, staring into fires. Murphy joins your group at the cook fire, his face unreadable in the flickering light. Berlin fell today, he says simply. Russians got there first. No one speaks. The war isn't over, not quite, but its ending is written now. Somewhere to the south, the last SS diehards are supposedly making their Alpine redoubt. Let someone else chase ghosts in the mountains. You pass the schnapps to Murphy. He takes a long pull, then stares at the bottle like it holds answers. They're mustering us for occupation duty tomorrow. Nuremberg's got things that need guarding. Jenkins tenses. The camps. Murphy shakes his head. Worse, the evidence. The fire pops, sending sparks swirling into the damp night air. Somewhere in the distance, a single artillery shell screams, perhaps the last of the war, perhaps just another in an endless line. You take the bottle back and drink deeply. Tomorrow will come soon enough. The morning after Hitler's death dawns clear for the first time in weeks. Sunlight glints off the puddles littering Zeppelin Field, transforming the battlefield into a broken mirror. You wake stiff and damp beneath a grandstand, your muscles protesting every movement. Jenkins is already up, his wounded arm in a fresh sling, using his good hand to feed bits of sausage to a scrawny German shepherd that's appeared from somewhere. Found him sniffing around the kitchens, he says as you approach. The dog eyes you warily, but doesn't growl. Think he belonged to one of the gun crews. You scratch behind its ears. The animal leans into the touch desperately, as if starved for kindness. What are you calling him? Lucky. Jenkins grins at your raised eyebrow. He survived us, didn't he? Murphy's orders arrive with breakfast, such as it is. The company is to secure the Nuremberg Palace of Justice and adjacent prison complex. No explanation why, just coordinates and a truck convoy leaving in 30 minutes. Peterson helps load the wounded onto ambulances, his movements careful despite his size. When he spots you watching, he jerks his chin toward Dawson's empty cot. Medics said the fever broke. Kid'll live. He hesitates. Might even keep the arm. The drive into central Nuremberg is surreal. The bomb damage here is less severe. Allied planners clearly spared the historic district. Nazi banners still hang from some buildings, their swastikas hastily painted over with white crosses. Civilians move through the streets like sleepwalkers, avoiding eye contact. The Palace of Justice is an imposing neo-Renaissance building, its sandstone facade pocked by a few stray shell impacts. American MPs in crisp uniforms guard the entrance, their posture rigid. Something about the place prickles the hairs on your neck even before you see the prisoners. They're lined up in the courtyard, 24 men in rumpled civilian clothes under heavy guard. None wear uniforms, but their bearing screams military. One turns as your truck passes, and you recognize him instantly from newsreels. Hermann Göring, his once florid face now gone, his famous medals conspicuously absent. Jesus Christ, Jenkins breathes. That's the whole Nazi high command. Murphy's expression could etch glass. War Crimes Tribunal starts next month. Our job's to keep them alive until then. The assignment proves maddening. For weeks, you stand guard outside cells holding men responsible for millions of deaths. They bicker, demand special treatment, even attempt suicide. One SS officer bashes his head against the bars until MPs sedate him. Göring in particular is a nightmare, alternating between charm offensives and screaming fits about his honor. You witnessed the first interrogation through a one-way mirror. A weaselly little man named Rudolf Haas describing Auschwitz's operations in the tone of a factory manager discussing production quotas. The numbers defy comprehension: 10,000 a day, mountains of shoes, gold teeth sorted by quality. Afterward, you vomit in the latrine until your stomach cramps. Jenkins finds you sitting on the prison roof that night, staring at the stars. He's brought coffee, real stuff, commandeered from the officers' mess. They're transferring me home tomorrow, he says without preamble. The shoulder. You sip the coffee to hide your reaction. It's bitter and perfect. Teacher now. Hopefully. He hesitates. You could come with. I heard Murphy's putting in for discharges for the original squad. The offer hangs there, tempting as a warm bed. But something in you resists. Someone's got to see this through. He nods, unsurprised. Then write to me. When it's done. The trials begin in November. You secure a seat in the gallery through sheer persistence, watching as the defendants face justice in the very city where they orchestrated their madness. The evidence mounts. Film reels of piled corpses, survivor testimonies, meticulous records of genocide. Some Nazis weep. Others sneer. Goring eats candy. Murphy testifies one crisp December morning, his voice never wavering as he describes finding the Miltenberg hospital's hidden dead. Afterward, you walk him back to the officers' quarters in silence. At the door, he surprises you with a question. Still think about after? This time, you have an answer. Yeah, more now. He smiles, really smiles, for the first time since France. Good. Winter passes in a blur of guard shifts and court sessions. Dawson returns in January, his arm functional, if not whole. Peterson gets promoted to lieutenant, his gruff competence perfect for whipping new recruits into shape. The war's last embers flicker out. Japan surrenders. Atomic bombs render old battles obsolete. The world lurches toward whatever comes next. And then, one ordinary Tuesday, it's over. You're discharged in a Frankfurt processing center, your duffel bag heavy with medals and light on souvenirs. The clerk hands you papers, a train ticket, a crisp $50 bill. Just like that, the army's done with you. The station platform is crowded with returning men, their faces a mix of joy and shell shock. You spot Murphy before he sees you. Out of uniform now, his duffel slung over one shoulder. He's staring at a departure board like it's written in code. Need help reading that, sir? He turns, and for a second, you're both back in the frozen forests, the snow falling gently through the pines. Then the moment passes. Think I can manage, soldier. A pause. You heading home? You pat the duffel where Dawson's sister's photo is safely tucked. Gotta stop to make first. The train arrives with a shriek of brakes. Murphy extends his hand. You shake it, then surprise yourself by pulling him into a brief hug. No words are needed. Some things transcend rank. As the train pulls away, you watch Nuremberg recede through the window, its scars healing, its nightmares boxed away in court transcripts. The countryside unfolds, green and peaceful. Somewhere ahead lies Ohio, and Sarah, and whatever comes after war. You settle into the seat, close your eyes, and for the first time in years, sleep without dreaming. The train ride from Nuremberg to Frankfurt is the longest 3 hours of your life. The compartment smells of stale tobacco and old sweat. The bench is hard beneath you after years of sleeping in foxholes. Outside the window, Germany passes in a blur of shattered towns and fresh green fields pushing through the ruins. A baby cries somewhere in the next car. The sound is oddly comforting, proof that life goes on, even here. You check your duffel again for the 100th time. Dawson's photo is still there, tucked safely between the pages of your discharge papers. The girl in the picture smiles up at you, frozen forever on that sunny lakeshore. You wonder if she knows yet about her brother's fever, his wounded arm, the German boy he shot in the rain. Frankfurt Station swarms with activity when you arrive. GIs jostle for position in chow lines. Red Cross girls pour coffee, and a brass band plays Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy with more enthusiasm than skill. The air smells of diesel and frying onions. The processing center is all business. A bored corporal stamps your papers without looking up. Next, just like that, you're civilian again. The $50 bill feels foreign in your hand. More money than you've held in years, yet somehow less real than a pack of cigarettes or a dry pair of socks ever was at the front. You trade 10 of it for a decent meal at the USO canteen. Real eggs, real bacon, real coffee that doesn't taste like motor oil. The first bite makes your eyes water. Outside, an autumn breeze carries the scent of coal smoke and something blooming. You follow it without thinking, wandering bomb-scarred streets until you find the source, a stubborn lilac bush pushing through the rubble of what was once someone's home. The flower is purple. You'd forgotten how vibrant colors could be. Back at the transient barracks, You find a letter waiting. Jenkins' familiar scrawl leaps off the envelope. Teaching history to high school kids now, it reads. They ask about the war. I tell them about the frozen forests, the smell of snow and gunpowder. About the men who didn't come home. They don't understand, but maybe they'll remember. There's a P.S. Murphy's movie comes out next month. We should go see it together. You tuck the letter away with the photo. Tomorrow, there's a ship waiting in Bremerhaven. Next week, Ohio. After that, for the first time in years, the future is yours to shape. That night, you dream of apple blossoms.